Good evening, everybody. Call our work session to order of December 8th, 2020. And tonight we have a presentation from Metropolitan Transit Project Manager Shaheen Kajra Jafari, and he will be presenting an overview of the forthcoming Metro Transit D-Line Bus Rapid Transit Project, the anticipated construction timeline, and then will be available for any questions. So I will pass it on to our City Manager, Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have much to add except that we're excited to host the Metropolitan Council tonight to provide the information on the D-Line now that it's fully funded. The presentation is informational, and it's a chance for policymakers to ask clarifying questions as the project moves into construction. And so with that, I will pass it to Mr. Kazra Jafari.
Thank you, member and council members. Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity for me to talk about the Metro D-Line BRT project and the upcoming construction plans. I would like to add that I also have Chad Seaman on this call with us, who is with the design consultant leading the design efforts within the for the stations within the city of Richfield, and he will be able to assist in answering any questions at the end of this presentation as well. I will share my screen here. Hopefully I can get this to work. Okay. Does this presentation look up show up correctly? Great. This is thumbs up. Thank you. So again, as I mentioned, I will quickly talk through the D-Line BRT project. I'll start out with giving an overview of the project, both to provide a little more information and also probably a refresher for the city and the city council. This project extends along an 18-mile corridor from Brooklyn Center Transit Center all the way south to Mall of America Transit Center. It substantially replaces the current Route 5, which follows the same path through this corridor. And as you can see on the map here, that goes starting from Mall of America through American Boulevard, Portland Avenue, Chicago Avenue to downtown Minneapolis, and then northward through Fremont and Emerson Avenues to 44th, all the way to Brooklyn Center Transit Center. There will be 40 new stations spaced roughly half a mile apart along this corridor. And this line is currently projected to be about 20% faster than Route 5, thanks to a lot of the operational and use efficiencies that have been designed into the BRT system that I will speak to shortly here. The line, the buses will also run every 10 minutes to provide a reliable reliable service in this area. This has been the product of a multi-agency partnership with Hennepin County and the cities of Bloomington, Minneapolis, and Richfield. And we are on track for construction to occur within 2021 and 2022. And I will get into the upcoming milestones and schedules in the next slides as well. So I'd like to quickly run through a general station layout and what it will include, starting out with the pylon, which will most likely be the first thing that our customers will be able to notice and identify the station by from a distance. The pylon with the big T on top Also includes a screen which would provide real-time bus information, both visually and also with the enunciator to speak for information with low vision. I apologize, people with low vision. Next is the shelter that we have at each station. The shelters, in addition to protecting our customers from the weather elements, they also provide lighting and on-demand heat at every station. The shelters do come in different sizes based on customer demand at each location, and what we're showing here is our typical small shelter. Another item that is not so visible in this photo, but is marked by letter D, is kind of on the side of the shelter, are our ticket vending machines and fare card validators. As I mentioned earlier, part of this service will be to run a more efficient bus line, which this contributes to as customers are able to either pay for their ticket or validate their fare cards at the station prior to boarding the bus. So boarding the bus would be a much quicker process, which would allow us to run every 10 minutes as well. Other items that add to security and safety at our stations are the emergency telephones and the security cameras that will be connected to Metro Transit Police and will be available at all of our stations. In addition to that, we've got trash and recycling that will be provided. That's will be maintained by Metro Transit, and it will be collected on a routine basis. Aside from these key features, we also have the benches, bike racks, and also a lean rail that will be provided at some of our stations to help separate the platform from the sidewalk in that area. So the stations within the city of Richfield are all along Portland Avenue. There are 4 stations that we will have along Portland Avenue within the city limits. Those are located at 66th Street, 70th, and 73rd Street, as well as a temporary station at 77th Street. All stations, both permanent and temporary, will provide the same quality BRT service throughout the corridor. Well, for this project, it was closely coordinated, the planning and design rather were closely coordinated with the city of Richfield to ensure we incorporate the city's requirements and standards into the stations that we have designed that we'll be constructing in this area. There is no locally requested scope from the city to be constructed as a part of this project, and therefore there is no cost to the city for any of the elements that will be constructed in this area. There are public artworks that have been identified in the area that are mainly the sidewalk poems engraved into the concrete, and those will be restored by Metro Transit upon construction completion. We do plan on executing a joint powers agreement with the city for temporary easements, permits, and right-of-way management authority to help us in the construction of the D-Line project. This agreement was also coordinated closely with city staff, and I believe will be brought to the city council for approval in early January. In this slide, what I have showing is a general layout of a permanent BRT station. This one in particular is at Portland and 70th. What you see here are actually 2 different layouts. In the southbound, we have the sidewalk that goes behind our station platform, while in the northbound, the sidewalk is shared with the platform. And at every location where we designed our stations, it was important for us to make sure that the permanent features that we're constructing can be placed within existing public right-of-way. And based on that, we designed each one, and we worked with to ensure that there is adequate pedestrian path, as well as space for our shelters and the BRT station amenities. And in the upper left corner of this image, what you see is a rendering of what the station would look like on the northbound at Portland and 70th. Here, what I'd like to talk about a little bit is the temporary station that we will be installing at Portland and 77th. This station, again, provides the same service, and the shelter will include heat, light, as well as fare collection and validation systems, and real-time information and trash collection. The only items that this station, or the station will not include at this time until a permanent station is constructed, are the pylon and the bench and the bike rack, as well as another item that I forgot to mention, which is the slightly elevated platform to allow for easier entry and egress of the buses. This the station, the photo on the left here kind of depicts what I described in terms of what would be provided. This is a station at Olson and Humboldt, which is part of the C Line BRT project. And as you can see, there was a concrete foundation poured to allow for a temporary shelter, as well as the equipment to be installed. On the right corner or the right side of this slide is a general layout of where this temporary station would be installed at Portland and 77th. Our plans are to include a permanent station at this location eventually, which would be constructed in conjunction with the future MnDOT I-494 expansion project. And at the time when we were designing the stations, we also coordinated closely with MnDOT and of the alternatives and the plans that they have for this area. It became clear that any work that is going to be done at the Portland Avenue Bridge and the replacement of that bridge would extend well into where our permanent stations are going, or shelters rather, platforms are going to be located. And because of that, we and our efforts to minimize the amount of disruption that may occur from construction, both to residents in the area and the bus service, we determined that a temporary station would be a better solution as we continue to coordinate with MnDOT on their future plans for this area. So I'll quickly go through the BRT project schedule. As you can see, with design, we completed the 100% design in November, and the contract was released for bids it was last Friday on December 4th. So we are currently advertising for bids and hope to open bids on January 7th of 2021. With that, we hope to award in early 2021 and have construction begin that spring of 2021, which would continue through fall of 2022. And we intend to have the BRT bus line operational by December of 2022. With that, I understand it was a brief presentation. However, I'm happy to address any questions or comments the City Council may have for me.
Thank you so much for that overview. Are there any questions or comments? Sorry, I can't see everybody's screen. Councilmember Supple.
I was wondering about the residents that live by those stations. What's the procedure for notifying them about the construction and that it's going to happen?
Thank you, Council Member. We've been having outreach throughout both planning and design phase of this project, which has been done by our outreach team. There have been public meetings that have been held both during the planning phase, and there were public meetings that were held during the early design phases as well, with similar material and more detailed information that have been provided to the neighbors that live near the stations. On the stations or with the residents that are in closer proximity to our stations where we may need an easement or may impact them more directly, we've been having a more one-on-one engagement through mailers and phone and email to ensure that they understand the impacts, and if there is a temporary easement that's needed, that we reach out to them and engage them on the negotiations that would be needed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Whalen. Oh, looks like we can't hear you, Councilmember. Yep.
My mic keeps going out. So I'm really supportive of the project as a whole. I'm really excited about this coming in. My only question is around the temporary stop at 77th. I would love to feel confident in that we're really close to that work happening. That project has literally been in discussion my entire lifetime. And so I guess I'm questioning how set in stone is it that is a temporary station, and what happens if, I mean, I know it's still an open question, and if it doesn't all happen right away, it will probably remain an open question for a long time. But knowing that the 494 work is not fully funded and they're making decisions about what to prioritize, what are the chances of going ahead with a full station at that site?
Thank you, Councilmember Whalen. Yes, the station at Portland and 77th, the quality of service, as I mentioned, is important to us that we provide to our riders. So it is one that we will be coordinating closely with MnDOT on as they go further into their planning and become a little more certain about the future of their project in that area. At this time, with the plans being advertised, we do have a temporary station that will be constructed there that's currently in our plans, and we do not have a permanent station yet designed. Part of that being due to the fact that whatever MnDOT determines or decides as the final design for the Portland Avenue bridge reconstruction could impact the layout that we would have at the station. And I think the way we would design our station would be dependent on because the extent of their construction comes to the point where our stations are, it would be one that we would have to closely coordinate with them. Should the MnDOT project have a change of course and not plan to proceed as they are now. I think that would be an item that we would certainly be, again, coordinating closely with them to determine what our near future and beyond would look like for that station, and whether that's something that we could still plan on having constructed in conjunction with the future MnDOT project, or whether it's something that we should be evaluating as a separate endeavor.
Thank you. Other questions or comments from folks? Councilmember Troutman.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks for a great presentation. And I think we all just are really excited about the project. One question, just a practical question I had, and maybe you mentioned it in the presentation, I didn't catch it, but are there heaters or heat lamps that are going to be installed in those bus stations? And I know there are some, as I kind of look around, there are some that have been installed over the years but not maintained. And I know that's the difference between being in 50 below weather and having a heater, and being in 50 below weather and not having a heater is significant.
Thank you, council member. Yes, there are most certainly the heaters are part of the key features that our BRT stations will include. Those heaters have been provided on the A line and the C line as well, and we will be including them on the both the temporary and the permanent stations that we will be having on the D line as well. And we would certainly be, throughout design maintenance of those heaters have been an item that we'll continue to find ways of improving during design and then also throughout operations as well.
Thank you. I just want to verify quick, because I know I got an email from Councilmember-elect Sean Hayford O'Leary, and I know I believe he had connected with you all before the meeting, but it sounds like the concerns that he had expressed were the ones that Councilmember Whalen had brought up. Is that correct? And City Manager, I know you were on the call. Was there any additional concerns or discussion that would be helpful to share in the work session?
Thank you, Mayor. That was his question. I will actually ask a follow-up. We attended a PAC meeting on the 494 project today, and it sounds like they're going to be bringing options through the TAC and the PAC process in the February timeframe. So if there was consensus around the implementation of a certain project and it did not include the Portland interchange, would you be able to modify and put through a change order to make a permanent stop at 77th or not?
Thank you, Councilmember. At this point, because we have not yet fully gone through design, I think that would be dependent on the timeline for that decision with MnDOT and when it would be it would be implemented. Right now, I think to put in a change order could be seen as a significant change in scope in the contract that we have. And so I think it would be an item that we would have to revisit with the design team to evaluate what our best alternatives are, whether it would be a change order or it would be a separate contract. However, I think, again, that will be dependent hugely on the coordination that will need to occur between the Metro Transit, MnDOT, as well as the City of Richfield.
Great. Any additional questions from folks? Okay, well, it sounds like we don't have additional questions. We really appreciate the presentation. We're extremely excited for this coming to our community. It does look like the coordination and timing is something that we'll have to stay on top of, but we'll be a part of influencing through the PAC and PAC. So I'll just ask one more time, any other questions on this work session item before we close it up? No. Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate it. And I will adjourn our work session